Queensrÿche has been such a huge part of your life. When you look back to that time working with Chris DeGarmo, is that something that you ever see yourself doing again in the future? Do you have any desire to create with those guys again, or are you just sort of happy and at peace with where you are today? How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm uh,
Awesome.
I'm in Montana. It's sunny and warm, and things are good.
Wow, that's a beautiful backdrop there. You
Yeah, it's
know,
gorgeous, isn't it?
yeah, it looks scenic. Absolutely.
Very.
So I figured we'd just start off by just asking a simple how are you and what's been going on, Geoff? I mean, listen, this is exciting for the fans. Interviews aren't something that you typically do a lot of. Maybe if you can just give us an idea of what's been going on in Geoff's world as of late.
What's going on in my world? Well, let's see. I am. Well, I my wife and I do this really interesting project. It's called Backstage Pass Travel, and where we take uh, anywhere from 25 to 30 people on trips around the world. This week we're in Montana, and we have a trip starting today. And all these people are flying into the airport, and they're going to come join us here at this fantastic lodge in
Wow.
Montana for a week. And we're going to take them sightseeing, mountain climbing, whitewater rafting, fly fishing, horseback riding, all punctuated with sing around the campfire every night music by me and my group of musicians that are with me. And then we go on to Germany. We have trips in Ireland, Italy, Greece. Um, I'm probably forgetting some the Pacific Northwest, and it's a it's a fantastic experience. I have to say, from my standpoint, it's so fun. Different groups of people every week, and in between that, I have some select festival shows in Europe over the next month or so. I'm playing the Wacken Festival in Germany. So I think it's the biggest metal festival in the world.
Yeah.
Playing that, yeah, pretty much that's my summer.
Sounds like an awesome summer. I mean, I've always got the sense from you, Geoff, that you really seem to enjoy and love to travel. Is that something that you've always sort of inherently had? And I mean, with the touring that you do, it must be perfect to go hand in hand.
Yeah, it is. I developed a love for it earlier on when we first started out playing music and touring when I was with Queensrÿche, and I fell in love with being in a different place every day, and you know, uh, being around different people and meeting new people, having new experiences, and it's just something I guess I've appreciated from early on and developed over the years. I travel. Most of my time now is spent traveling, going to different places. I think last year I spent 14 days at my own home,
Out
sleeping
of
in
the
my
whole
own
year.
bed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I mean, would you say that musically, where you are really has a big effect on the things that you create? Because, I've heard that your environment can have a big impact on your creative output. Have you found that? Or is it like, my creative output is the same no matter where I am?
Um, I think environment can really be inspirational. Yeah. Um, and it can kind of work to your detriment as well, depending on where you're at and what's happening around you. Um, I think it really just depends on your own state of mind. You can draw inspiration from looking at a beautiful scenery, or you can draw inspiration from being in the middle of downtown Manhattan. It really just depends on your frame of mind and what your interest level is. For me, like coming up with a song or a musical idea, I kind of have to know what it is I'm writing about. Is it a conflict? Is it something that's whimsical? Is it a tragedy? Is it just simply being happy. I think those are the hardest songs to write, being happy, you know.
Is that why is that?
I don't know. It's like when I'm happy, I don't really feel the need oftentimes to sit for hours in the studio creating something to
Right.
express myself. I just want to experience being happy.
Well, that's why there's so many heartbreak songs, I suppose, right? I mean, when you look at, I guess, all the music catalog across all these artists, it's majority of it is not happy emotion.
No, no, it's typically you're inspired and moved by something that's intense in your life, and typically what is intense is a breakup or some sort of emotional trauma or um, some kind of tragic situation. Those are probably the, the most written about when it comes to subject matter.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, so in terms of these travel groups that you're sort of discussing and that you're at now, is that mostly people who are fans of you musically who come, or is there a big crossover of people who just want to travel who come to these as well?
Well, first, when we first started, it was really, I'd say 100% fan based, but now it's really spread out. And because people have told their friends about it, and it's a cross section of people now. And we also have big, oh, wow, there's a little marmot here. I just got to turn the
Oh,
video over.
cool.
Can you see him? And he's by the rocks there. There's a couple of
Let
them.
me see. I
Little
think, oh, I can kind of see it. Yeah, down there. Oh, look at that.
mountain squirrels. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Wow, what a beautiful property.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous here. Yeah.
Holy
So,
smokes.
yeah, it's a cross section of people. We have some people that rent out the full week with their friends and family, and we had one lady that it was her 60th birthday. And so she brought all her friends and family to France, and we stayed in a 1,000-year-old castle with
Wow.
everybody for a week and had an amazing chef come in and prepare our meals every night. It was amazing. And then during the day, we take sightseeing trips out to various places and let people kind of see where they were at. But it was all family and friends who came on that trip.
Wow. I mean, it seems like you have a really healthy balance of interests, that are not just related to the music. Obviously, you love to travel, obviously, a huge passion for wine. You're going to be pouring at the Pinot and Rock Festival on July 6th in Germany. Is it really important for you, Geoff, to have that healthy balance so that your life is not just defined to music?
Yeah, I think it's not something I consciously endeavored to accomplish. It's something that sort of, I think, just kind of hits you in the head at some point where you realize, oh, okay, well, I need to think about some other things other than myself.
Right.
you know,
I would
because let's
imagine.
face it, being an entertainer and being a musician, of course, it's kind of a selfish endeavor in a lot of ways. It's all about me and what
Right.
I feel.
Start of the show.
Yeah, it can get like that. So it's better to have at least one foot on the ground, so to speak, and keep it real.
Yeah, I would imagine it helps keep you fresh as well, because I've seen a lot of artists, who've been doing it as long as you, who they seem burnt out and they've even expressed being burnt out, but I don't get that sense from you at all. You seem to just be going stronger every single day. So I would imagine it helps keep you energized to a degree.
Well, it really does. I I have a great group of people that are supporting me in my endeavors. My wife Susan is top of the list, and my family, and then I have my band of musicians who are incredible to work with and very supportive and always up for experiencing the adventure as well. You know, which is a big part. If you have to drag people through life, it becomes a drag.
Right,
It's
literally.
it's nice that it's nice when they're as excited as you are to hike to the top of the mountain to get to the lake to go swimming. At the end of the day, it's a nice thing to do as a group.
Yeah, for sure. I know we touched on writing a little bit as well. How often do you find yourself writing these days? Is there anything you're actively working on, or is it something that when the inspiration strikes you, you just act on it?
No, I've never been kind of that way. I've always been the kind of person that works with a schedule.
Okay.
I set aside the time and make myself go and sit down in my music room or wherever I'm composing and actually work for a set amount of time. And that way it seems to work with me rather than just sort of waiting on a whim in order to react to it.
Hmm.
I mean, I have written like that in the past where you get an idea and you just pull out your dictaphone or if you have an instrument or a way to record, you record the rough idea and then you develop it when you get in your studio, that works for me. But yeah, I have to kind of work at it, set myself up for it. And I haven't put out any new music since I think 2017, and I'm really starting to feel the need to do that now. In fact, this week I was in my studio, kind of organizing some of my my music, and I have a few hours worth of music that I haven't unreleased yet, and it's all in various stages of completion. So I thought I'd better kind of make a list of what's interesting to me right now and start getting it ready for release, and finishing up things and tying up loose ends and that kind of thing.
Wow. So that's exciting then. So, I mean, what name would this be released under? Would this be sort of a group
Oh,
project? Would this be solo?
yeah, I don't know yet.
Yeah, still figuring
First I
that
have to
out.
put it. I have songs that are kind of related to each other, and I have songs that are completely unrelated to each other. So I don't know. I have to put them in like relatable groups. But then again, people don't release albums anymore, do they? They release songs, and then later they put them into a grouping. So maybe I'll go that route, just sort of release a song at a time.
Hmm, that would be interesting. Is that
I'm thinking out
something?
loud. I don't have a plan.
Right. Yeah, we're figuring it out now. Is that
Yeah.
something that you've thought of often, Jeff? Is, how different the distribution is of music, today as opposed to when you started, there was a set formula, I would say, when you began in this business and it worked very well. Now there's a whole variety of formulas. Is that sort of a conscious thought for you moving forward in the space at this
Yeah.
point? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Actually, the whole industry has changed, and the whole delivery mechanism's changed. The whole recording of music has changed. Everything has changed. The marketing of it. Yeah, it's a constantly evolving animal. And I think that you, as an artist, as a musician, you need to stay, kind of in tune with what is happening, the developments that are happening um, in order to work with it. Um, it used to be, you have to go in the studio and you had to hire the studio and had a set amount of time to work there, and it was hugely expensive, and it would cost you, $200,000 to make a record. And today you do it in your kitchen,
Two
and
hundred dollars.
yeah, a few $100s, and you have to invest in the gear and the equipment, and that's it. And again, it's one thing to make the music, and it's a whole nother thing to market it and sell it. And I guess that's always been the story. Is I remember in Queensrÿche we had a hugely commercially successful record, Empire. At the time, it sold like 6 million records or something like that. And uh, years later, I was at a function and I saw the president of the record company there, who was no longer president, but he has gone on to do other things. And I asked him, I said, what is it that you guys did? What was your game plan with us, and how we sold so many records? And he says, I have no clue. I have no clue. We just threw it up against the wall and it stuck. So we recognized that it was something that people wanted to buy, so we sold them with that.
Right. As simple as
There
that.
wasn't any kind of game plan or anything.
And then I mean, I feel like today that would be so challenging, but at that same, on the same note, it's almost a testament to the power of the music, right? Because if you have a product that people really want, it's you can't keep it on the shelves.
Yeah, and for example, there's lots of examples of young people now starting out making videos of themselves performing their music on a street corner, for
Right.
example. And you can watch them develop over like a year, where they're getting more and more people watching them. They get more and more people wanting to see them, and then you see them going out on tour, and then the next thing you know, a couple years later, they're playing Wembley Stadium. You know,
Right.
and it can be that kind of rise very quickly nowadays. That was just unheard of, back when I started out. Back then, it was more of a steady climb. Each year, you got a little bit bigger, a little bit more widespread. You toured in more areas, and your audience grew over time. And today, you can have a gigantic worldwide audience in the space of a year. You know, it's a whole different world, a whole different. The rules are all different. In fact, there are no rules.
Right. There's no rules now. I mean, do you think that's good or bad for the development of an artist reaching certain levels, maybe without putting as much time in as, say, a guy like you did?
I don't think it's here or there. I think it's just it is.
Right.
Uh, there's no right or wrong. People are going to handle the fame. They're going to handle being a celebrity different, and they're going to come to their own conclusions on how comfortable they are with people or how uncomfortable they are with people. And I mean, I know people that are hugely successful in this business that have nothing to do with their fans.
Hmm.
They don't talk to them. They don't see them. People I've invited to come on our Backstage Pass travel that would just they couldn't even fathom doing this for a week, hanging out with people, and
Right.
socializing, and that no, they just can't imagine it, and they're uncomfortable with it. I myself was a little uncomfortable at first, but then I saw how it worked and how it could be, and became comfortable with it. But yeah, everybody's going to handle it different, you know. Everybody's going to handle the success differently. Some people are going to grow from it. Other people are going to just crash and burn.
Yeah, personally, from just observing, I've found that the artists who really do interact with their fans and have those conversations, the elements that they might be worried about through that actually dissipate because, the mystique, it's a humanizing thing, right? So maybe they treat you more like a human being than they would even if they didn't speak with you.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of artists, I think, are uncomfortable with is the human aspect of it. They recognize that they are in a position that's, I don't know, kind of unnatural in a sense
Yeah.
with being famous, and it makes the artist uncomfortable to have to recognize that and deal with it.
For
It's
sure.
much easier to put a wall around yourself and exist like that and have an army of people surrounding you and taking you everywhere. It's easier that way, definitely.
Yeah.
But once you get past that, like I always admired Mick Jagger. He never had like security guards following him around everywhere. He was independent, and he just went places and did things and went shopping and walked down the street and did what every human does.
Right.
And he didn't draw attention to himself. I think a lot of times when you have a security team surrounding you, they draw so much attention that most people wouldn't even know it was you if it was
Exactly.
just you. But they recognize that something's going on, and this person must be famous or something because they have this detail of people surrounding them. So you're drawing attention to yourself that way.
And then people ask you for a picture who may not even know who you are, but just because you have security, right?
Right. And that's
Definitely
something
is.
I learned early on, that it's so much easier and better just to take the photo with somebody or sign the autograph rather than bringing your own feelings of inadequacy into the situation, you know? Because at first, when you first get asked for an autograph or something, you feel, why are they asking me for this autograph? I feel uncomfortable with this, you know? And it is kind of a weird thing at first, but then it's, if you say, no, I don't do autographs, now you're difficult, you know?
Right.
Now people they don't respect you or like you because you just told them no, right? Well, you have to have some boundaries, of course, but signing somebody's autograph or taking a photo with them is having a problem with that is really unrealistic, I think. It's a no-win situation. If you say no, they don't like you. You have to do it. You know, you just have to become comfortable with it and find a way of making it work for you. You know.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You know, jumping back to sort of promotional strategy and musical strategy, if we could take it to 82, 83 for a moment, obviously Queensryche having a massive buzz in the scene before being signed, you guys' demo tape went out and ended up selling a lot more copies than I think a lot of people expected. At least in terms of a demo tape, that it wasn't typical for them to sell to that level once converted to an album. Sort of what was you guys' approach at that time? Obviously doing a lot of live concerts, but how did you really create that buzz at that point looking back?
Well, we were very a unique scenario, a unique situation. We didn't play any live shows.
Okay.
We went into the studio and made a 4-song EP, and then we hooked up with a couple who owned a record store who became our managers, and they convinced us that we should put our demo tape out as EP, like a vinyl EP. And we put together the album. We changed our name from The Mob to Queensrÿche, and we put out that EP with their help and their record store connections. And it sold over 60,000 copies on its
Wow.
own, which was at the time just unheard of. Nobody did that. And so with that kind of sales ammunition, they went to various record companies and said, look, we have represent this band and this is what they're selling on their own right now. Just think of how many they could sell with your machine in place, you know? And so at the time, without ever having played a show, Queensrÿche got to pick which record company we wanted. And we signed with EMI at the time. And they re-released our EP, and then it sold a gold record, you know, boom.
Wow.
And the logic was correct, you know, with the record company machine, we quadrupled our sales, you know, in a very short time.
Wow. I mean, for
And
some
then we
reason,
played shows after that.
yeah, because for some reason I had it in my head that you guys were doing shows. I guess I hadn't seen any evidence of that, but I mean that's even more unheard of that you guys
Yeah.
were able to do it that way. Was that surprising to you guys at the time?
Uh, no, it wasn't so much surprising until later on when people started asking us about it, and we didn't have any shows to play. You know, we weren't playing shows. We sold so many records just based upon the music, you know, or maybe it was that album cover. I don't know.
Right. Probably a mixture. Man, that is so cool. So correct me if I'm wrong. You guys were signed to a 15 album deal through EMI at first. Is that correct?
No, it was a 7 album deal.
A 7 album
Mm-hmm.
deal. Okay. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's a pretty tall order. What was you guys' reaction to being signed for that amount of albums right off the bat?
Um, I don't know if I really had a reaction other than I was happy that it was happening. But honestly, at the time, I was 22 years old and I had no concept of what that meant, you know,
Right.
really. I just knew that I could quit my menial job as a laborer and devote myself full time to making music, which that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to do that. So I was very satisfied short term in that regard. And the life really did take a big turn though when we were signed, because all of a sudden we were expected to go out and tour and play shows, and we became an opening act for everybody. There was not a tour we said no to. We just went and toured with everybody, and which was great logic, because that's how you build an audience, is by touring and playing shows and being exposed to a headliner's audience. So we were very fortunate that one, we could do that. Everybody in the band was a great player and very accomplished at their instrument, and we kind of took to it. We were a good live band, that we were consistent with what we did, and it worked for us. But I had no concept of what that meant to have a huge record deal and have all these albums that we were expected to make. I mean, we had written 4 songs,
Right.
and now we were expected to come out with full-length albums, within a year. So
Wow.
the pressure started building to accomplish this endeavor, and to get more productive in our creativity, And I think for quite a while that was an interesting learning experience for me. That's the way I interpreted it. Other people in the band had a hard time with the pressure of it and didn't take to it so well over time. But I loved it. But I felt that there was a lot of pressure to adhere to this schedule of touring, a couple months off to write the record, get it done, put it out, go on tour again, repeat.
Yeah.
That became quite a schedule to keep, really, over time, especially as we got older and started, having relationships and getting married and starting families. It's pretty hard to say goodbye for 4 months to your daughter. They
Yeah.
don't understand it, and you don't understand it. And it's a growth period. Definitely.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's such a young age for all this to happen as well. How do you feel like you navigated that, Geoff, through the scheduling and also everything that's being thrown at you at that time? The money, obviously, we've seen many of your peers succumb to drugs, succumb to alcohol, in much shorter periods of time, and you've been, doing it ever since, and you're still here. I mean, how did you manage to sort of navigate through that, do you think?
Well, I have to be clear about this. They succumb to the abuse of
The
drugs, the
abuse.
abuse of alcohol. I'm an alcohol advocate. I love having drinks. I have a winery, I make alcohol. Uh, you can manage it, people that have problems with it, they shouldn't drink, but it
Right.
doesn't mean that it's a bad thing for everybody, just because it's a bad thing for some people. But yeah, a lot of people went down, a lot of people couldn't keep themselves together, gave in to numbing themselves, with from the pain that they're experiencing, rather than, I guess, writing about it or dealing with it. That's one thing about music, is you can definitely treat it as therapy in a sense, and exercise your demons,
Right.
if you choose to go that route. And I saw a lot of people do that over time. A lot of artists, a lot of people I knew. Some people just couldn't take it. They couldn't take the fame. They couldn't take the attention. Couldn't accept it about themselves. There's so many things, so many mind games, I guess, you experience, that everybody's going to handle it differently. What are you going to do?
Does it more so come down to sort of your genes, I guess, and your personality rather than the circumstances? Because, like you're saying, you could throw someone without an issue in those same circumstances and they're fine. Is that really what it comes down to?
I think so. Yeah. I think over time, we're getting to a state of developing technologies now. It's a pretty amazing time to live in, really. But I think they're already doing this to a certain extent. They're locating certain genes or certain points in your physicality that they can pinpoint as going to be a problem in your development. Like they're going to be able to really pinpoint psychotic behavior and eliminate that. I think in time there will have a huge social dilemma to determine who gets to judge or who has to judge who is fit for society. You know, we're already having problems with it now with our legal system. It's really deteriorated a lot in America. Our population doesn't trust or respect our legal system anymore. Not like they used to. And
Yeah.
it's going to get even more challenging when the scientists are able to say to your young developing child, okay, well, your child is showing, psychiatric issues here, mental disorders. And so we advise to eliminate them. How are you going to deal with that? Oh, no, I can make it better, which is, of course, what a parent's going to say. I'll raise them to be able to fit into society. Well, yes or no. We don't know.
Right. We're yet to find out.
Yeah, but I mean, that's coming. That is coming. My kids are going to have to definitely deal with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting how many things happening today are sort of reminiscent of the concept on Operation Mindcrime. Is that something that resonates with you? Because I know it resonates with a lot of people out there who listen to the music.
Well, Operation Mindcrime is a story that deals with classic human conditions. You have the struggle of right and wrong. You have, as they say, good versus evil. I don't like to encapsulate things so much in that limited direction, but for the sake of conversation, that's what you have. You have people dealing with religion and using it as a crutch to get by on or to find strength in. These are classic elements of the human condition, and so that story kind of resonates over time, and it'll never go out of fashion in a sense because it's what we've always dealt with as society, as humanity. We've always dealt with these issues, and they've changed somewhat, but we kind of grow slowly in a sense. Humanity does. There's still people that believe that the earth and humanity began with Jesus Christ and the beginnings of Christianity, even though there's massive evidence that Christianity is a religion like many religions that was inspired by what came before it, other religions that started before it. And that's what you're dealing with nowadays. There's a funny little meme that came up that said, remember when we thought that stupidity could be fixed by giving people more access to information? Well, that didn't happen.
Right. The opposite.
Yeah, the opposite happened. Yeah, now we have people believing that the earth is flat, and oh my God, it just goes on and on and on. So I don't know. I forgot what we were talking about here. I got
Well,
off.
just
off
the
topic.
concept of Operation Mindcrime being relevant today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, like I said, the storyline is something that's a classic storyline that we've been writing about for eons. People have always had problems with each other. People have always had turmoil. All my life, people have said around me, oh, times are so hard now. There's not enough money. There's not enough jobs. Everything's so expensive. Our education system is broken. This is bad. They've been saying it all my life.
Right.
There's nothing new about that statement. They were saying it in my parents' life as well. You know, it's a never ending story. Things are always changing, always. Um, it's a dynamic world we live in. You know, humans are we're growing at different rates. Luckily, we're in this age where we're sharing information now at just a rate that's unprecedented. You know, this thing I'm holding in my hand gives us access to worldwide opinion, and we're all comparing what's going on with what's going on in other places. You know, we're wondering why in the UK, for example, they have this wonderful healthcare system where everybody gets quality healthcare, and we're wondering about it in America because our healthcare is messed up. You know, we're having to go through insurance companies, and it costs $250,000 to have a heart operation done when you can get it done in another country for $20,000. You know, why is such a discrepancy in what it costs, right? So these are questions we're all asking ourselves. Why is it different here? What's good about that? We're always taught, at least in my life, you know, America, fuck yeah, America, it's the best country in the world. Well, it's not. There is no best country in the world. There's countries with more opportunities. There's countries with better and higher standards of living. We have a big problem in this country with our food supply, for example. We have the thinking is we throw pesticides on everything. That way we can get higher yields. We can grow more food and the farmers can make more money, right? Well, that's a direction. And in France, they're going, no, you can't spray pesticides on things. It's bad for people. Well, true. In America, we have the highest cancer rate in the world, right? You are what you eat. So,
Yeah.
but we also have the most people in the world. We have 350 million people in our country. We have to feed. France doesn't have that. What do they got? 100 million people, you know?
Maybe.
We don't.
Yeah.
Ireland, 5 million people. That's more. That's less people that are in the state that I live in.
Right.
You know? So we're faced with how do we feed the people here in this country without pesticides? We can't grow enough food to do that without help, hormones and that kind of thing. So where do we find the balance, you know? And I think that's what our challenge is now, is finding that balance, finding the healthy balance that still we can create enough food for everybody and it's not killing us at the same time, you know?
Man, that is such a good point. It's definitely,
And this is so far away from rock and roll, I know.
hey, this is great though. I love to break it down further than that. It is so true. You know, since we spoke on the record, I do have to ask, when you finalized the concept for Operation Mindcrime, were you sure that this was the direction you wanted to take and that it was going to work right away? Did it take any convincing of management or label, or was everybody on board and said this was going to work? Because I mean, other than The Wall, 2112, and maybe a few others, the concept album was sort of unheard of at that point.
Well, I grew up in the time, the 60s and the 70s, which is a fantastic time for music. And I say that because there was so much creativity that was unburdened by rules and regulations. Artists were really trying to create new things. And if you look back, there wasn't the amount of, or the quantity of genres that we have now. We were all taking from each other and making hybrid music, really. Okay. I grew up listening to The Wall, Sergeant Pepper's, and Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. These were Close to the Edge by Yes. These were big musical ideas. And I wanted to create something like that as well within our group of people. And I brought the idea to Chris DeGarmo, our guitar player. And I said, I really want to do this. And he came from really appreciating the Beatles and what they did. And so he could relate to what I was saying. And we started toying around with what would we do and how would we do it. And it was kind of something we were chewing on, so to speak. And then, like, I don't know, maybe a couple years went by, and I came up with the story. I brought it to Chris, and I said, I think I have a concept here for us. What do you think? And I explained it to him. I played him some of the musical ideas I came up with, and he ran with it and loved it. And we started down that path of creating the album. And we really didn't stop to question, is this the right thing, or is this good for our future? Anything like that. We never did that. Our slogan was no limits. We didn't feel like we wanted or needed to box ourselves into what opinions other people had about us. We were just trying to pursue what we had in our head, you know? So it was, I guess, about 8 months of creating that record and getting it to a point where it was released. And, you know, when we were finished, it was like all of a sudden, I, for instance, just took a deep breath and went, what just happened?
Right.
What just happened? I felt completely purged and exhausted, and in a good way. Like I'd got everything out of my head, and we'd created this thing that that I loved. I personally loved that album and everything about it. And it wasn't until the thing started selling and going through the roof that I guess we were proven that we were on the right path. You know, it was something that connected with an audience, it connected with people. And you just never know when you're making it. And it shouldn't be, I think, the thing that drives you to create something anyway. What should drive you to create is your own feeling of how or what you want to make, your own passion for it. That's what should be top priority in your mind. And you shouldn't give way to anything other than that.
Yeah. No, that's super
In my
powerful.
opinion.
No, I agree. I think at least for genuine, creativity, that's gonna have to be the way to go. Obviously, Queensrÿche has been such a huge part of your life. When you look back to that time, working with Chris DeGarmo, is that something that you ever see yourself doing again in the future? Do you have any desire to create with those guys again, or are you just sort of happy and at peace with where you are today?
Well, I think that we had 30 good years, which is phenomenal. Most bands make a couple records. How many records did Guns N' Roses make? 3?
3 or 4.
Yeah. We had 30 years of making music, and we gave it a really good run. We had a lot of success. I think we created some really memorable albums, some really memorable songs that will outlive us, and I don't really have a need to go back and try to recapture that with Chris or any of the other guys as well. I feel like it's time to do other things, and to just explore. And we gave that a great run. It was successful. We did great things. It's time to do other things now.
Do you keep in touch with any of the guys at all?
Not regularly, but sometimes situations arise where we have to sort of deal with each other, and it's not unpleasant, now enough time has gone by. Bridges have mended, I guess,
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you have such a graceful sort of approach towards talking about that period in your life. Is that a challenge for you? Because, you acknowledge, right, after the split that it would be something that you will be discussing likely for the rest of your life. I mean, is
Yeah.
that tough, or is that something that you just don't have an issue with?
At first, it was very challenging because we had kind of a bitter breakup. Um, and I guess I was very angry over how it was handled, you know. Um, but then I started looking at the personalities involved and realizing, well, it really didn't have any other realistic outcome. It was going to be what it was. But that was 12 years ago when the band split up. And so, I mean, a lot of water's under the bridge now, and I can be a lot more forgiving of people in their situations. And, but I've had to talk about it, I keep getting asked questions about it, that kind of thing. And you ever going to get the band back together? That question all the time. And so I've tried to think about how to talk about it in a way that is honest and real for me, but yet not so volatile, because I mean, I could get very volatile about it and point fingers and express blame, and I could be very cruel. But it doesn't really serve me, to even entertain that idea. I really appreciate what we had and what we did, and that that was I'm happy with that. Very happy.
I have a lot of respect for that standpoint. Just to wrap up, and I really appreciate your time here today, Geoff. How are you doing health wise? I know that you had an open heart surgery back in 2022. Maybe if you
Yeah,
could sort of speak on that, and how are you?
I'm great.
You
Actually,
seem
it was
good.
a fantastic surgery, and the funny thing is, I didn't even know I had a problem. You know, after COVID, um, we all sat around, everybody, I guess, and ate and drank and watched TV, and you know, gained some pounds. And one day, my wife says, you got some shows coming up. Can you even fit into your rock and roll pants? And I said, sure, I could put them on. I'd put them on. I couldn't button them. And she goes, okay,
Oh,
I'm putting you on a diet. So started working out, quit drinking for a while and partying and eating so much. And uh, she was making breakfast one day and she decided to add some extra protein to my yogurt. And so she sprinkled on these chia seeds on top, right? I went to the hospital
wow.
and I felt horrible. I thought I was going to die. I walked in the hospital, did all the tests, and the doctor says, well, it's a good thing you came in. I've got some good news and some bad news. I said, what's the good news? And he says, well, you're highly allergic to chia seeds.
Oh,
You had an anaphylactic shock scenario happen. You're okay. Just don't ever eat chia seeds again. I didn't know I was allergic to chia
wow.
seeds. He says, but in doing all the tests, we found out that you need heart surgery like yesterday. You have a severe aortic problem and you need to get it fixed. So here's some recommendations. And that started me down the rabbit hole of trying to find what was wrong with me, how to fix it, and dealing with the American medical situation,
Right.
the industry, as they say, which was incredibly frustrating. And long story short, I ended up going to Germany and having the operation done there. We researched it and found the sixth best heart surgeon in the world who did my operation and developed new techniques for it. And I have the state of the art valve replacement in my body right now. And it was an amazing experience, actually. But the thing is I didn't know I had a problem. I just thought it was normal for a guy my age to be huffing and puffing, climbing the stairs.
Mm.
I just thought it was normal for a guy my age not to have the energy level that I used to have. And I just adjusted to it, accepted it. But once I had the operation and I recovered from that, I feel like I got 15 years taken off my life. I feel fantastic. You know, I'm where I was having to take a break going up the stairs. Now I'm running up the stairs.
There
I'm
you go.
carrying suitcases upstairs. I'm running upstairs backwards just to show off. I mean, it's phenomenal how that can make such a difference in your life. And I never knew I had a problem. Yeah.
Wow. That's unbelievable. I mean, how long did it take you to recover from this surgery?
Well, it was 2 weeks in the hospital. And this is the first time I ever been in a hospital in my life. I never had
Right.
broken a bone. I'd never been ill like that. So it was really a different kind of experience for me to experience that. So like 2 weeks in the hospital, and then it took me about 6 months before I could really sing hard, you know. And then it was another, I guess a couple months before I could start doing like chest exercises, like push-ups and things like that. I couldn't do one push-up to start because
Wow.
they split you open, you know.
Sure.
So now it's been, well, 2 years in June I had it done. So now I'm working out regularly, running, walking, hiking, mountain climbing, swimming. I'm doing everything physical nowadays, and I just love it.
That's amazing, man. Well, listen, we're obviously so happy that you're feeling good and that you're back in action. Geoff Tate is going to be on the road through Europe this summer. Make sure to click the link down below, guys. Go buy some tickets. Go see Geoff live and let him know that you saw him here on the program. And Geoff, I thank you so much for your time today, man. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me on your show. Hope to do it again.